Cool. Okay, welcome everyone to the 2020 APEC Groundbreakers Virtual Tour by APEC OUC. And this year, our event would be the biggest one ever done, with 174 sessions that would be including normal sessions, workshops, and hands-on labs from 123 different speakers over 11 days. Also, it would cover sessions on 4 different languages. So please remember to register to as many sessions as you can, and all sessions would be available to replay as many times you want for 2 weeks after the initial session date and time. You can also interact with the speaker at any time during that 2 weeks by posting questions or comments directly in the playback session page. But of course, I would like to say thanks to all Oracle user groups and Java user groups that made this event possible, and also to our sponsors, Oracle Groundbreakers and CloudDB. Now for today's session, Upgrade to Oracle Analytics Server, Why and How by Francesco Tisiot. Please feel free to write questions at any time during the sessions at the Q&A tab of the Zoom webinar, and the speaker would be answering them at the end of the session. If any issues during the presentation, please feel free to contact me at any time on the chat tab of the Zoom webinar. Now, without any more delays, I would like to leave you with this amazing session by Francesco. Take it away, Francesco.
Thank you very much. Let me share my screen now. I hope you can hear me okay. Okay, you should see the pasta now, and now the slides. Let me know if you can see the slides, please.
Yep, all good.
Okay, perfect. So good morning, good afternoon, I believe for you. Good morning for me. It's 7 o'clock in Italy, and I will talk to you about how to upgrade to Oracle Analytics Server, the why and the how. We will see a lot of details about it. First of all, a little bit about, if I manage to change the slide. Okay. A little bit about me. I'm the analytics tech lead of a company in UK called UNUSED. I'm based in Italy, in Verona. Lovely place if you want to visit when everything will be possible again. I blog a lot on my company website and as well in my personal blog post. And you can find me by email, but like as all the other Oracle Aces, you mostly find me on Twitter. So just reach me out on Twitter if you have any doubts. And I'm also an Oracle Ace Director. I've been appointed Ace Director more than 1 year ago now, in the analytics space. A few words about my company. It's called UNUSED. We work on 3 main pillars. The first pillar is data engineering. We take data from any source, we change the shape, we load to any target. Second pillar is analytics. We started doing a centralized BI system over 15 years ago. We know how to do it. We know what they are good at, but also what they are bad at. So we work also on the self-service area with our client. We let them understand which method is the best, and we'll let them understand how to work in conjunction with both. The third pillar is data science. We have a bunch of data scientists within our team, and we can solve data science problems for our clients, but also teach our clients how to solve data science problems so the next time they can do by their own. So let's start the talk. Your goal is to move to Oracle Analytics Server, but really, the set of steps that you will have to do depends on one key question. And the key question is where you are now. Where you are now tells me about like how long your OBIEE story is, how long your Oracle Analytics story is, and also a lot about how frequent your upgrades were and stuff like that. So let's see a few examples. There are various cases where you can be at this point of time. The first one is, of course, Oracle Analytics Cloud. If you are on Oracle Analytics Cloud, you are on the latest and greatest product from the Oracle Analytics system. Still, like Oracle Analytics Cloud, it's in the cloud, so you don't have all the customization options, as we will see later, that you have on premises. If you want to move from OSC to OS, it's possible. There are a little bit of caveats, but it should be somehow possible to move to OAS. The second option, if you are not in the cloud, in the newest product, is to be on premises on OBIEE 12c, which was the latest OBIEE version, Oracle Analytics version, before the renaming in Oracle Analytics. Oracle 12c, sorry, it was out since, I believe, at least 6-7 years. But we still see clients which are not in 12c, which are in the previous version called 11g. Of course, we will never suggest to stay in 11g because it's desupported, it's really old, you miss a lot of feature, but still we see clients, just because they had a working environment, they didn't want to touch it, so they still had 11g. 11g was already there, was almost already there when I started my IT career, which was in 2008. Still, we see clients which are not even 11g, which are in a version before, which was called 10g. As you can see and understand from this picture, the more you go backwards, the older is the history and the bigger is the gap that you will have to you will have to go through in order to have a working environment. So we understood that we need to somehow move to Oracle Analytics Server. But the question is now, what is Oracle Analytics Server? Why have you been talking about OAC or OBIEE and not about Oracle Analytics Server? Well, OAS stands for Oracle Analytics Server. So it's made by Oracle. It's analytics, so it's an analytical platform. And it's server. So compared to other tools, it's stuff that you can install in your server. No matter where your server is, you can rent a server from Oracle or Amazon, or you can have a server in your basement. You can install that. It's part of a big family, which includes the cloud version, the server that we are talking today, and also the application one, which is an analytical platform pre-filled with content. By the way, Oracle Analytics for Application now is renamed into Fusion Analytics Warehouse. And it's a product in which they are adding a lot of stuff. So you will find pre-created analytics for a lot of Oracle Cloud data sources. So let's see Oracle Analytics Cloud and Oracle Analytics Server. They are really similar. There are empty analytical boxes, empty analytical platforms. So let's have a deep look at that. So Oracle Analytics Cloud is the only analytical platform in the market which solves a problem in the analytical space, a problem about functions. OAC supports every kind of analytical function. When I say every kind, it's because there are two main kinds. The first one is what we call classic, is where your business department wrote down a series of requirements, was handling them down to the IT department. The IT department was working for weeks or months, and then delivering this perfect use-only dashboards. There was some sort of interaction where the user could change the prompt or do some limited analytical capabilities, but it was driven and worked centrally by the IT department. That led to business user not being happy because they had to wait for every change that they were asking. And then they were mostly moving back to like Excel. So what was the second wave was what we call modern, where the business user is empowered to basically do the whole stream by himself. He can attach to one or more data sources, and he can, from the data sources, create amazing projects without leaving the platform. Let's have a deep look at both functions. In the classic, the enterprise BI, the look and feel is really similar to OBIEE 12c, also in the Oracle Analytics Cloud or server. As I said, it's content which, for the most part, is centrally managed and maintained. So there is the IT department in the backend, defining how you join various tables, how you expose those joins, how you expose all the columns coming from all the tables, how you aggregate facts, and how you define hierarchies, for example. You can build interactive dashboards, which are based on this what we call subject areas, which are layers of the database or any data source modeled and exposed by the IT department. And every user has the ability to analyze those data, but the data needs to be modeled before. Then you have these interactive dashboards where you can, like, for example, change prompts or navigate from one page to the other, drill down into the dataset. And you have BI Publisher, where you can also create pixel perfect format. So if you have to create massive amount of PDF in pixel perfect format, BI Publisher is the tool for you. And in general, you have the action framework, which allows, from a creator point of view, to define paths and to create a story on top of the data. As I said, all this stuff is based on a metadata model, which is centrally managed and maintained. So you cannot directly access the data. You have to ask the IT department to build this metadata model for you. The second one is modern data discovery, where you have the opportunity to connect to any data source. You can do some sort of data preparation. So you can clean the data, enrich the data, transform, change the shape, aggregate, filter, and stuff like that. And you can create mini ETL flows, which are called data flows, and that you can see in the picture below. So you can create mini ETL pipelines that are executed in the Oracle Analytics server, and then can change the shape of the data and can also push the data back to the database. On top of this, we are not talking only about an ETL solution, we are talking about a visualization solution. So you can create stunning visualization that are in line with any of the other analytical tool in the market. Why is Oracle Analytics unique? Is because it can really blend both worlds. You have in the market, you have tools which can solve one of the two problems, but none of the tools can solve both problems at the same time. And this is why Oracle Analytics is perfect for what I call hybrid analytics. It's taking the best of both worlds. So from centralized BI system, we can take, for example, the centralized reporting when, in cases where you need, within your company, the unique source of truth. So for example, if you want to provide one way of calculating the number of customers, the number of churning customers, you don't want 10 people to attach to a database and come up with 10 different versions of that number. You want that number to be fixed for everybody. So you want centrally the IT department to define a model which calculates properly the number of customers. And of course, if you have data set with a really particular access control, so for example, HR or finance, where the information that a person can see that are depending on his role or her role, then in that case, the centralized BI environment is the best. With Oracle Analytics, you can use these features in conjunction within the same tool together with the self-service, where you can do free discovery on top of any data source or on top of an IT curated data source. And also you can do data enrichment and cleaning. So if you have part of the data coming from your IT department and you have your Excel containing, for example, the forecast, you can blend that together and you can clean. And then you can go from raw data to insights within minutes. You can use everything together. I wrote a presentation a year ago about trying to find the balance between self-service and centralized BI. And Oracle Analytics gives you almost all the instruments that you need to have. I said almost all because we as RhythmOMID are writing a plugin to fill some gaps, but the platform itself is perfect for this use case. So we understood what Oracle Analytics is. The next step is, okay, I know about Oracle Analytics, but I want to know why I should start migrating to Oracle Analytics Server. I'm already a customer of OBIEE. What's new in Oracle Analytics Server? There are a few things that we will see in delay. Let's have a look briefly at those. First thing is licensing. As we will see later, licensing changing between OBIEE 12c and OAS, making OAS more attractive for a lot of customers. Visualization, we will see a ton of new stuff coming into the visualization, into the self-service area in particular compared to OBIEE. We see a lot of enhancements into data flows, And also the setting, the way that managers and administrators were used to manage the platform is changing a little bit. And then the big thing is about augmented analytics and machine learning. We had some sort of basic capabilities in OBIEE 12c, in the latest OBIEE 12c, about self-service and augmented analytics. That is way better now with OAS. So let's start checking in detail all these news. First of all, licensing. I don't know if you were on the latest OBIEE 12c, but if you think about being on the latest OBIEE 12c and checking those two options that you have in the screen, you immediately realize that self-service and mobile were two items that you had to license separately. So you had to pay OBIEE 12c fees, plus if you wanted to have self-service or mobile, additional fees to have them. Now with OAS, all this is gone. You just buy OAS. Even more, as Oracle said before, if you have a valid OBIEE 12c license, you are automatically licensed also for OAS. So it's in your benefit if you have already OBIEE 12c to move to OAS, because you possibly are going to save money. Second, visualization. OBIEE 12c is, I believe, at least a couple of years older, and it has a big feature gap compared to OAC or OAS. So visualization like butterfly, the visualization that I love most, which is the empty visualization, but allows you to move and create the content as you wish, or like visualization options like the ability to change any color in any table or pivot table. This is horrible, but you get the sense of it. Or a lot of visualization around maps and being able to create a custom map and attach a layer to a map directly from the end user point of view without needing the IT administrator to set up almost anything. So this is about the visualization. Next one, data flows. This is how data flows were looking in OBIEE 12.214, which was the latest OBIEE 12c. This is how data flows look now. You have a lot more content that you can apply, a lot more features, and also I believe the stability of data flows in general is much better in OAS compared to OBIEE 12c. Settings. As I said, one part of the setting is the ability of changing almost anything in any visualization, which wasn't the case in OBIEE 12c. You had really limited options where you could change the shape of various visualization. Now you have the ability to control everything. This is only part of the setting regarding the visualization. The other part of the setting is about the console. The console is a new way for IT administrator to manage the platform. It's in line with the console that you find in the cloud. So you say the same options about maps, session query, the safe domains if you want, the connections. And in general, it takes out some of the customization that we were used to do in the configuration files back in the server, and is showing them up in a nice console, in a nice UI. The last bit of what's new is the augmented analytics. And again, here we have a lot of new stuff which wasn't there in the previous platform. For example, data enrichment suggestion. Every time we attach to a data set, the tool itself, OAC, OAS, will suggest us, look that, for example, you have a city name in your data set. Do you want me to add the country? If you have, for example, credit cards number in your data set, it will suggest to you, do you want me to obfuscate, because you really shouldn't use credit card numbers in your analysis. And then creating advanced analytics is really easy, because it's just a click away. If you have the last 5 months of data in your visualization, you just right click and say, I want the forecast to show the next 3 months forecast. Really easy and simple. And then it can process natural language. So we can write, for example, give me the sales by country, And if someone else or myself uploaded attached to a dataset containing the word sales and country, it will create automatically a plot for us. And then we have explain. Explain is a really powerful feature that tells us all we have to know about a specific column in our dataset. So let's have a look at explain. If, for example, I have a wine dataset dividing the wine in good or bad, if I click on this quality of the wine being good or bad, OAS or OAC will tell me everything that I need to know. For example, that I have 60% of bad wines and 38% of good wines, and the average price is nearly, for example, I will say $22 for the bad one and over $50 for the good one. So it already creates some sort of basic information. And the cool thing about this information is that we can select any of those charts and include them in our project. So we don't have to start from scratch. We can start actually from something that the tool itself is creating for us. On top of this, the same explain tell us which are the key drivers. So if you want to create a predictive model, it's telling already that if we want to predict the wine quality, we really should use the columns region 2 and country to build a predictive model. The question is, where do we create a predictive model? Well, you have all the machine learning capabilities in Oracle Analytics Server as well. You have a full section of the data flow, the mini ETL tool that allows you to train and apply machine learning models. Once you select which machine learning model you want to train or apply, depending on what problem you are trying to solve, for example, if you are trying to predict the temperature in your room as numeric prediction, or if you are trying to classify wine are good or bad at a binary classifier, depending on the problem that you want to solve, that will drive your selection here. Then once you select which problem, it will allow you to select which type of algorithm you want to use. And within which type of algorithm, you will be able to select which type of parameters you want to apply. It can be a little bit hard to understand which type of algorithm or parameter. The good thing about the machine learning bit in OAS and OAC is that gives you the output of the machine learning model. In the case of a classification, it tells you the confusion metric. So you can understand the results of the model, and you can somehow compare various models together. So you can say, for the KPI that I want to optimize, for example, the number of predicted good wines and in the reality were good wines, this model is the best. And then you can use, for example, on the fly, or within a data flow. So when you attach to the data where you want to apply the prediction, you create a scenario, you select the model. You have to match the columns that you use to build the model with columns coming from your data set, and then the prediction is just available as an extra column within your visualization that you can drag and drop in any kind of graph or table. So this ends the part of what's new. The next bit is really, we understood that OAS, it's good, it has a lot of good stuff. Really, why should we move to OAS? And the question is, I'm an OBIEE user, why should I move from the existing OBIEE that is working to a new tool OAS? So why should I put down the time to move to OAS? Again, there are various things. Let's see in summary. First of all, support. If you are on OBIEE, depending on which version you are, probably you are in or out of support. And if you're out of support, well, if everything works okay, then you are fine. But if you have a problem, if you find a bug, if you're out of support, you are by yourself. New features. We saw a lot of new features coming. We saw that you have a lot of options in data flow, in visualization, in console, etc., etc. And then you want to move to something new, and you always have the option to go to the cloud with OAC. But sometimes, because your data is in your data center, or because you want to everything, also the analytics platform, to stay in your data center, you want to move to the next level, but still stay where you are. Don't move to the cloud. And then, as I said before, Oracle Analytics Cloud is an option, but as for almost every analytical option, you have the full benefits of the cloud. So easy provisioning, it's everything managed by Oracle, etc., but you lose a little bit of control. You don't have the same option to access the OS, for example. And then all the same goes by the customization. In the cloud, you don't have the same option about customization that you have on premises. You don't have the access to all the configuration in the config files. So if you want, for example, to change, I don't know, the number of rows exportable in Excel, that in the cloud is driven by the instance size. On premises, you can scale up and down as you wish. So really, if you want to have complete full control, access to every kind of log, access to any kind of information within your platform, you really are looking into staying in your data center, and OAS is your next step. If on the other side, you basically give the trust to Oracle and you just want easy provisioning, you don't want to spend time into maintaining the platform, you want automatic upgrades, well, then OEC is what is there for you and you should use, because OEC gives you all the benefits of the new feature of the licensing, but stay in the cloud and is managed by Oracle. On the other side, if you want the complete control, OS is for you. So we understood it. We understood why moving to OS. We understood that OS has a lot of new stuff for us, but on the other side, it has also some limitation. Some limitations. So for example, if you were using scorecard and strategy management, well, I have really bad news for you. That tool is desupported and no longer available. You will not find scorecards in OAS or OAC. This is due to the fact that I believe a really small percentage of users were using that tool. Oracle Marketing Segmentation. This is not supported, but is deprecated. The same goes by the BI Scheduler Job Manager, the Act As, which was a really cool function about IT administrator being able to act as other people in order to check how the other person could see the same dashboard. Also deprecated. BI SQL Group Provider, deprecated, and System Session Variables, deprecated. I'm listing that there is a difference between the supported and no longer available for the scorecard and the rest of deprecated. Deprecated doesn't mean that it's not longer there. It's still there. And we have been told by the PM in the Oracle Analytics space that they will provide some sort of workaround before they move out a specific feature. You can find a list of limitations in the link below. You will have all the slides later. So we understood what are the benefits, the limitations. Let's start digging into how we move to OAS. First of all, installation. How do we do an installation? Before doing the installation, we need to check what are the prerequisites. And as of now, for OAS, there are three main prerequisites. This slide is a little bit older, and I will tell you now why. OS, here it says only Linux 6. Now OS is also available for Windows since, I believe, a month or so. So you have also the opportunity to run on Windows. DB, I believe, as of now, it's only Oracle. Maybe it's MySQL. I need to double check. And then the third prerequisite is the JDK. You have to be on a specific version or above, as always. These are the three limitations. Once you plan your installation, you should follow a folder structure. I'm putting this slide in the presentation because the default folder structure that you will see in the during the installation provided by Oracle is not the correct one. So if you start from Oracle, for example, you create a subfolder called product and a subfolder called, in this case, Oracle Analytics Server 5.5, which is the current version. The OAS 5.5 is what we call Oracle Home. Then this contains the binaries of the current version. Then you will have to create another config domain BI, which is the domain home. The domain home contains the customization, the content that you put on top of the base platform code, which is contained in the Oracle home. By default, if you follow the step-by-step suggestion provided by Oracle, the domain home will be within the Oracle home. I don't suggest that because next year, next month, a new Oracle Analytics version comes out and you will install it alongside the old Oracle home. If you have the domain home within the Oracle home, you create weird dependencies. So I suggest always to create the domain home outside the Oracle home. This is just valid for any OBIEE 12c, but it's worth mentioning also for OAS. Then you start the installation, and the installation is almost as the 12c one. So first of all, you install the JDK, then you install the version middleware, then you install the OAS, then you create the RCU schemas, which are schemas in the database that support the work of Oracle Analytics Server, and then you execute the OAS configuration. And I wrote a blog post, and you find the link at the bottom. Again, you will have the slides there, where I go step by step in the visual installation. There is also a nice blog post and a GitHub repo by Gianni Ceresa that allows you to automatically install OS via Docker. If you are on the installation side, this is all you have to do. If it's your first time in the Oracle space and you want to start from scratch, then this is all you have to do. And then of course, you have to start the services. If on the other side, you are on an upgrade, that's a different story. The upgrade path really depends on where you are at the moment, and that will drive the steps that you will need to do in order to go to OAS. So if your target is OAS, if you are on the latest OBIEE 12c, 12.214, then it's an in-place upgrade. So you can override the Oracle home as we saw earlier, and everything will go on working. If you are on an earlier version of OBIEE 12c or any 11g, then it's an out of place. Let's see in particular for OBIEE 12c. You want to arrive to OAS. If you are on the latest OBIEE 12.214, then it's a direct step. You can override the Oracle home. If you're not, if you are on an earlier version, you can always upgrade in place to 12.214 and then to OAS. This is meant to be an in place, and we will see the difference between in place and out of place in a few minutes. For 11g, always your goal is to go to OAS. If you are on a 11.119, you can create a package of your platform and ship that package directly to OAS. If you are on an earlier version, maybe you need another step to move to 1.19 and then package it up. This is an out of place because you're not overwriting the Oracle home of the existing environment. You are installing alongside. So we talk about OAS in place and out of place. Let's have a look at the benefits of each option. So within place, you keep all the security settings. So if you were attaching to an external LDAP, to UAM, to any external identity provider, those settings are kept for you. In the out of place, you have to redo. I put in this in yellow and not in red because maybe at upgrade time, it's time to check that if all the settings are still valid, if we can modify, if we can somehow optimize our connection to the LDAP server. In place, you keep the component configuration, which is also always good, but it's in yellow because in every new version, there are new settings that you will have to change. And you always have, again, at upgrade time, to check that if all the settings that you set 1 year ago, 5 years, 10 years ago are still relevant to your platform today. On the other side of the out of place, you have to redo everything, which is bad, but at the same time, if you are re-evaluating, it's a good time to check that if all the settings that you did are still okay. In place, you inherit the old installation, which could be good, because if your old installation was done properly, then you are overwriting something that was done properly. If on the other side, your installation wasn't done properly, if, for example, the domain home was within the Oracle home, then you create weird dependencies. So even inheriting the old installation is not always good. On the other side, the out of place, you restart from scratch, from a clean state. So you can define the best practice also for the new installation. And in general, with in place, you are overwriting the existing environment. And once you overwrite, there is no go back until you restore the VM and the database. So in the out of place, you have the option to have the new environment living alongside the old. So you can, for example, check what was working before and what is not, what small changes are between the two environments. Of course, you need to have the capability of running two OBIEE instances at the same time. That could be in different server or in the same server. As you can see at the bottom, RhythmMeet offers both a free OAS assessment, where we will spend 2 days of our time in order to tell you what is your current situation and what is your best path to 12C. And also we offer a fixed price OAS upgrade based on some condition and based on the amount of work that we define on that we can see in your platform. So as you can see, in place and out place have benefits and have problems. From my point of view, I would suggest 90% of the cases that you do an out of place. If you are really in a good starting point where you trust your current set of customization, security settings, and installation, and you are on the latest OBIEE 12C, then that might be a good case for OAS. In all the other cases, I strongly suggest an out of place. If you do an in-place upgrade, the first thing that you need to do is to perform a backup. And you have to perform 2 types of backup. The first one is about the server itself, containing all the binaries. The second is also about the schema, the schemas which are helping OAS or OBIEE working. So you have to have a good backup of both. So how does an in-place upgrade look like? First of all, you stop the platform and you need to upgrade the database schemas. You can also run the same command to upgrade the schemas with a readiness option that will only check that the schemas are ready to be upgraded. Then if you don't have a backup, you just have to backup additionally a file called mapure.config.xml, which contains the setting about the maps on the central BI system. Then, of course, you have to backup the domain if you don't have, if you didn't do it before. And then you start reconfiguring the domain in order to have the domain working as OAS expects it to work. And then you upgrade the single components, for example, the presentation server, the ABI server, etc., etc. Again, for this last one, you have the readiness option to check that the components are ready to be upgraded. Last bit is you just start the server, and this is done from an upgrade point of view. You have, however, some post-upgrade tasks to perform. For example, you have to re-enable the internal SSL, the SSL that was working between the various components. You have to migrate the catalog groups. Catalog groups was an ancient feature coming from the old OBIEE environments. Now it's still there in OAS, but you need to migrate them. And then you have to re-enable the HTML markup. You have to enable end user to be able to write HTML in their content, which is disabled by default. If you did all the steps that I said before, plus the post-upgrade task, you are done with the in-place. On the other side, the out of place. If you are in 11.119, you just create an export bundle, a zip file containing the catalog, the OBIEE part of the security, and the RPD, and you import the bundle in OAS. again, with out of place, our list of post-upgrade tasks is a little bit longer. We need to redefine the configuration. We need to redefine the security. We need to import custom images, messages, everything that is custom. And additionally, we have the same post-upgrade task as for the in-place, or enabling the internal SSL, and the other two which were related to security and stuff like that. If you are moving to OS, out of place or in place, that's done. This is the list of tasks that you have to perform. However, you have to know that OS is quite recent as platform, and it has its own bugs. It came out first in January, February. So by now you have a list of problem, but also a list of solution. For example, if you are upgrading to OS, you try to change the system setting, and you cannot because it tells you that the property update is it's failed. Or in case of data flows, you have 400 bad request output. If you find those bugs, there is already a solution for them. For KERBEROS, if you are relying on KERBEROS authentication, so you want to authenticate by KERBEROS, things have changed between OBIEE 12c and OS, so don't rely on the OBIEE 12c documentation. I write a tweet, and there is a small page in my website that redirects you to the support page, giving you all the definition about how you should implement KERBEROS on OS. So this is done. This is the full upgrade done. What do we miss? We miss the part about testing. Testing is important. Don't change the E with the A. Don't try to taste the wine. You have to test your platform. And you don't have to test your platform manually. You should start automating as much as possible. You should have a tool trying to automate the most of it. There are two options if you want to automate. The first one is to use the Oracle Baseline Validation tool, which officially is not supported on OS. The second one is to use our own RhythmMid regression tool, which is supported in OS. Those tools, in different ways, what they do, they will run analysis of dashboards, and they will compare the pre-upgrade and the post-upgrade if you have the two system alive at the same time. In case of an in-place upgrade, it's always a little bit tricky. You have to create a baseline before upgrading, but they will check. And those tools are not only useful during upgrade, they are also useful if you create a new content that you want to test for regression, for example. If you want to automate the testing, you probably want to test all the catalog, but especially in cases where you have a 10 years experience of OBIEE, that catalog could be huge. So what you really need to do is create a testing suite, which contains only few of the analysis, but that are representative of the whole reality of your analytical space. So if you have 50 dashboards on top of 20 subject areas, create a testing suite which will test almost all the features in those 20 subject areas, but without needing to parse the 50 dashboards. Because if you parse more content that you are losing time into waiting for the testing tool to finish and also checking the result and fixing stuff. Another important bit is that if you come...
Francesco, you still have 5 minutes.
Okay, thank you very much.
Nice.
If you come from an old OBIEE implementation, maybe 10 years old, your catalog and your RPD will look something like this. Why? Because you build content over time, and it's far easier, and you will have all the support that you need in order to build content, but then you leave the content there, the end user interest slows down, and you fill your catalog with content that is unused. My suggestion is, before doing the upgrade, remove the unused content, because that, as I said before, if you're spending time on checking and fixing stuff that nobody uses, you're losing your time. How you understand how to remove unused content? Well, for centralized BI system, there is a good tool which is called user tracking. User tracking allows you to write in a database table one line for each database query run to the database. For each query run to the database. So it allows you to check which subject areas within the RPD are still useful, which catalog items are still used, and which are not. Those that are not for the last 3, 5, 6 months, in my opinion, need to be archived and take it out because they are not more relevant. So we understood everything from the upgrade point of view. We understood why, what, where. So we are now ready to perform our upgrade. And just as a summary, we need to understand a few things. First of all, we understand the content, which content we need to migrate, which is relevant for my company and which is not, because I don't want to lose time. Then I need to understand which type of server I want to provide, because again, if you are moving from OBIEE 12c or 11g to OAS, you are adding functionality and you are adding end user experience. That end user experience might require a little bit more horsepower in order to be run properly. Then, if you want to move to OAS, the path that you have to follow is depending on your starting point. Starting from 10G, 11G, and moving to OAS is different from starting from the latest 12C and moving to OAS. And that drives the path. Few notes before I end. As I said, RITMOMID offers the free OAS assessment. We will use 2 days of our time with you, understanding your situation and providing you an output about what is the path that you should follow in order to move to OAS. And then, if you want to engage with us for the upgrade, we will offer some sort of fixed price based on the amount of environments, the history, the size of your catalog. We will give you a fixed time offer for you. This is the end. I hope you enjoyed my talk about how to upgrade, what's new and what's coming. And I hope you are now more confident that OAS or OSC is the right next step for your analytical platform. I will now review the question. I believe I saw a couple of questions. Let me check.
We have one question.
Okay. What is the percentage you've seen of companies going from on-premise OBIEE to OAC? What I can tell you from my point of view, from the client that I know, I believe, so if I have to make 100 clients, I would say 50% are still on OBIEE and without really a clear path as of now to go to any OAS or OAC. Between the two, I would say 15% are going to OAC in the cloud, and the rest is going to OAS. Why? Because most of the time is due to control, parameter control and access to log files. They want the complete access to all the logs to check that everything is okay. And they're not keen on giving this to Oracle and not being able to see everything. And also the level of customization in certain clients is so high that they cannot port those customization to OAC as of now. Fernando, did my answer like solve your question? Because okay, that's good. Yeah, I see this trend. The cool thing about moving to OAS is really the end user experience, because what I saw in a lot of clients is that OBIEE still represent the core centralized BI platform, but then in a lot of clients, a lot of other tools attach directly to OBIEE because of, for example, Tableau. They attach Tableau directly to the RPD of OBIEE to extract the centrally BI defined metric, and then they use the visualization power that they have in Tableau. That is that gap is going away with OAS, where you have all the feature, all the goodies of the self-service bit in also in OAS. Plus, you can create a set of tools to control the self-service behavior. What we are doing at OracleMania is creating tools that allow you to check what your users are doing in self-service and create reports on top of that. And this covers an area where we saw a lot of problems, because enabling self-service is good, but it comes with a risk. And the risk is that you are giving a new shiny tools to user to go back to the time where they were creating Excel files and they were providing different results on top of the same KPI. So if you give self-service, if you give freedom of access to create content, but at the same time you give a level of check from the IT administrator, you can easily spot cases where, for example, 10 different users created 10 different or 15 different projects on top of the same set of tables in the database. You understand that there is an analytical need in that sense, and you can talk with those 10 users and say, look, you are creating content on top of the same area. Do you want me as a IT department to create the unique view on top of this so you can all share the same data? So trying to balance the mix between self-service and centralized is one of the key problems that we see in a lot of cases, and is the good part of working with OBIEE and OAS and OAC at this time. If there are no any other questions, thank you very much. Thank you very much for hosting me, and I hope to speak with you soon again.
Yep. Okay, thank you. Thank you so much, Francesco, for your presentation, and also for everyone. Thank you for joining us, and don't forget to register to all other sessions. So our conference is going to end. It's going to be until Friday, so you still have a few more days to register to other sessions. And yes, let's have a good day.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.